Taehyung held Jungkook's gaze, his heartbeat loud in his ears. Jungkook wasn't looking away. He wasn't backing down. He had always been like this, determined, unwavering, unshaken by Taehyung's fears. And maybe that was why Taehyung wanted to believe him. Because Jungkook had never promised things lightly. And yet, Taehyung knew that love alone had never been enough to keep them together. If it had been, they wouldn't have fallen apart in the first place. So he exhaled, forcing himself to say, "It's not just about you making sure I don't hurt, Jungkook." Jungkook frowned. "What do you mean?" Taehyung bit his lip. "It's about me too. About whether I can let myself." He broke off, his fingers tightening into fists on the table. "I don't know if I can do this again." Jungkook's expression flickered, just for a second, but Taehyung saw it. He felt it. That brief moment of hurt before Jungkook schooled his face into something softer. Something patient. "I know," Jungkook said quietly. "And I won't rush you." Taehyung swallowed hard. He wanted to believe that. But the truth was, Jungkook was rushing him, even if he didn't mean to. Because Jungkook being here was already too much. The way he looked at Taehyung. The way he spoke to him. The way he waited, like he was certain Taehyung would come back to him in the end. And Taehyung? Taehyung was scared he would. Because Jungkook had always been the one weakness Taehyung couldn't overcome. So he stood up, pushed his chair back, and whispered, "I need space." Jungkook's body tensed. Taehyung. But Taehyung was already stepping back, putting distance between them. He couldn't let Jungkook see how much this hurt. So he forced himself to say, "Just for a while." Jungkook's jaw clenched. His hands curled into loose fists on the table. Then, after a long pause, he nodded. "If that's what you need," Jungkook murmured, his voice tight, "I'll give it to you." Taehyung's chest ached. Because Jungkook didn't fight him on it. And somehow, that made it worse. So he turned around, before he could change his mind, before he could let himself fall again, and walked away. Each step felt like tearing a piece of himself apart. And the worst part? Jungkook let him go. Again. The night was colder than usual. Or maybe it was just Taehyung, his body aching from the weight of a choice he wasn't sure he had the strength to make. He stood by his bedroom window, fingers curled around the fabric of his sweater, eyes locked on the quiet street below. Jungkook was giving him space. Just like he asked. But instead of relief, all Taehyung felt was empty. His phone sat untouched on the nightstand. He hadn't checked it all day. He didn't know if Jungkook had messaged him. A part of him didn't want to look, because if there was nothing, it would hurt. And if there was something, that might hurt even more. With a sigh, he ran a hand through his hair and sank onto the edge of the bed. His mind replayed the moment he walked away. The look on Jungkook's face burned into his memory. He knew he was being unfair. Jungkook had done nothing but respect his boundaries. He hadn't pushed, hadn't begged, hadn't tried to hold on to him. And yet, Taehyung almost wished he had. Because maybe then, it wouldn't feel like Jungkook was already preparing to let him go. A sharp knock at the door startled him. Taehyung's heart jumped to his throat. For a second, hope flared in his chest, reckless and desperate. But then he swallowed it down. Jungkook wouldn't come. Not when Taehyung had asked for space. Forcing himself to move, he padded across the room and opened the door, only to be met with Jimin's knowing gaze. "You look terrible," Jimin said, stepping inside without waiting for an invitation. Taehyung sighed. Thanks. Jimin shut the door behind him and crossed his arms. Are you seriously going to pretend like you're fine right now? Taehyung hesitated. I just need time, Jimin scoffed. Time for what? To convince yourself you don't love him anymore. Taehyung's breath hitched. Jimin's gaze softened. Tae. You already know how this ends. Taehyung turned away, walking toward the window again. Do I? Jimin sighed. Yes. Because no matter how much space you take, no matter how much time you spend running in circles, your heart is still going to lead you back to him. Taehyung clenched his jaw. It's not that simple. Why not? Jimin asked gently. Taehyung closed his eyes. Because loving someone doesn't guarantee it won't hurt. Silence filled the room. Then Jimin walked closer, his voice softer now. And staying away, is that any less painful? Taehyung's throat tightened. He didn't have an answer to that. Because the truth was, no, it wasn't. It wasn't any less painful at all. Taehyung barely slept. He spent the night staring at the ceiling, thoughts running in endless loops. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw Jungkook, the quiet hurt in his gaze, the way his jaw clenched when he said he'd give Taehyung space. It should have felt like relief. Instead, it felt like losing. By morning, exhaustion clung to his bones, but the ache in his chest was worse. Jimin was still in his apartment, sprawled across the couch with his arms folded. He hadn't pushed Taehyung for answers last night, but Taehyung knew his best friend wasn't done yet. You look like hell, Jimin said without preamble as Taehyung walked into the kitchen. Taehyung gave a humorless laugh. Feel like it too? Jimin studied him. You gonna talk to him? Taehyung froze mid-motion, fingers tightening around the mug he was holding. I asked for space, Jimin shrugged. And Taehyung frowned. And I need to figure things out. Jimin leaned forward. Tae, I love you. But let's be real, you're not figuring anything out. You're avoiding it. Taehyung's grip on the mug tightened. Jimin sighed, voice softer now. Just tell me the truth. Are you afraid of getting hurt again? Or are you afraid of how much you still love him? The words cut through him like a blade. Because the truth was, both. Both were true. Taehyung set his mug down with a shaky exhale. It's not that simple. Jimin gave him a knowing look. Love never is. But it's still worth it. Taehyung swallowed hard. His chest felt too tight, his thoughts a tangled mess. But as much as he wanted to pretend he didn't know the answer, he did. He had always known. Because no matter how much space he tried to put between them, he and Jungkook were always caught in each other's orbit. Taehyung lasted 2 days. 2 days of pretending he was fine. 2 days of avoiding Jungkook's name whenever Jimin looked at him with too much concern. 2 days of convincing himself that space was what he needed. It wasn't. It never had been. Because every time his phone buzzed, his heart clenched, hoping it was Jungkook, even though he was the one who had asked for distance. Because every time he closed his eyes, he saw Jungkook's face, the quiet, restrained hurt, the way his lips had parted just slightly, as if he wanted to say something but chose to let Taehyung walk away instead. Because every time he breathed, it felt like he was holding something inside, something heavy, something waiting to break. By the 3rd day, Taehyung stopped pretending. He was restless, unable to focus on anything. Jimin had left in the morning with a knowing glance but didn't push. Which left Taehyung alone. And alone, his thoughts had nowhere to hide. He stared at his phone for a long time. Jungkook hadn't texted. hadn't called. Had he really meant it when he said he wouldn't rush him? Taehyung swallowed, fingers hovering over the screen. He wasn't even sure what he wanted to say. But his body moved before his mind caught up, before his fear could stop him. Taehyung, are you home? The message sent before he could regret it. Seconds passed. Then, Jungkook, yes. One word. No hesitation. No questions. Taehyung's chest ached. Because of course Jungkook didn't ask why. Didn't push. Didn't demand to know why Taehyung was reaching out after days of silence. He was just there. Like he always had been. And maybe that was why, without thinking too hard about it, Taehyung grabbed his keys and walked out the door. Because as much as he was afraid of what this meant, he couldn't stay away. Not anymore.